type. I want you guys to tell me what genres do you remember about fiction? What genres of fiction do you remember? So, for example, we'll start with the realistic fiction, right? But what else? What others do you remember?
Mythology.
Myth, yeah,
Myth.
definitely. What else? So, but by myth you mean the unreal story about like something magical. So myth is no longer applicable here. You studied myth before in lower grades, but in checkpoint for year 8, you guys will have, instead of this, you'll study the fantasy story. Okay? So no more myth, but we have fantasy instead, which is quite similar, but yeah. Okay, fantasy. Okay, what else? Yeah, come on, try to remember. Yeah, we have realistic fiction, right? Guys, I have to make sure that you all can hear me well and I can hear you too. So, Farida, do you remember any
Horror,
other genre?
fiction,
Come again?
fiction.
Horror. Okay.
Science fiction.
Okay. Horror. And we have got science fiction. That's number 4. What else?
Myth.
You mean mystery? Okay, instead we have mystery. Yeah. What else? Yalla, come on. Try to remember. We have more types of fiction. So far, we'll talk about fantasy, realistic, horror, sci-fi, mystery. So what about adventure? Right? So I've got also adventure stories. Yeah, and we wrote mystery, all right? So yeah, let's start with those first. Okay, beginning with fantasy fiction. All you need to know about fantasy fiction is that fantasy writing contains unreal situations which cannot happen in real life. So as for the characters are gonna be mythical characters, unreal characters. Okay, the setting, the place where it happens also is gonna be somewhere unreal, right? So it's happening probably in an unreal world, like under the water, under the ocean. It could happen in a different world, like when a character is like in a forest or something, and then they fall into a hole into the ground, and then they discover a totally different world underneath. So yeah, something unreal. So characters are mythical. So mythical characters. And for the place, for the setting, it has got to be an unreal setting. Unreal. Okay. What elements should be also used in fantasy fiction? We should always try to use supernatural powers. What are supernatural powers? Supernatural powers are like people being able to fly, to live underwater, uh, like movies you've watched before, like Batman, Superman, Aquaman, whatever. All of these are fantasy fiction. Okay, so supernatural powers.
Black magic.
Hmm. Supernatural powers. Yeah. Okay. Great. Type. Let's try now to. I'll tell you the plot of a story, of a fantasy story plot, and we'll try to write it together now. But this requires you having a pen and a paper, so please have your pens with you and a piece of paper to write in it. If you have a notebook, that's fine. If you don't, just use any piece of paper for now. So each type of writing will take will try to do like the beginning of its story. So we've got 6 types of fiction writing. That means we'll try to write as much as we can of those 6 types of fiction writing. Yeah, go ahead. Do you all have pens and papers with you? Omar, do you? Yahya? Farida? Aziz? Guys,
Yes.
you do? Okay. All right. That's
Yes. Right.
Mister, I have my paper.
great. Okay, awesome. So let's talk about this story. I think some of you have read it with me before about the mermaid. Remember the story of the mermaid? We'll try to make one quite like it, or let's rewrite this story for now to just to remember the features. The most important thing we're trying to do here is to remember the features and to try to apply them in a kind of writing that will be suitable. Like there is the story of Sandy, a mermaid that lives underwater, and she likes to explore different places. Her friends invited her. I think she was even a fairy because we have to use mythical creatures, right? So the character is a fairy, the main character, and she's going to try to explore a cave, a mysterious cave, and this cave is like dangerous because there is a monster that lives in it. Anyways, she gets in, but she was saved because the cave collapsed on the monster, killing the monster before she was killed. Cool. All right. Let's try to suggest a title for this fantasy story. First of all, whenever you do writing, you have to write a title for it. The title should convey your understanding of this genre. So for fantasy writing or for fiction in general, it's okay to write in an informal way, in a friendly way. You don't have to write formal English in story writing. But in nonfiction, you will have to write in a more formal way. Okay, so let's try to write here maybe a mysterious cave. Or do you have any more suggestions for this story for now? Hmm. Can you suggest something? Okay, Omar, can you suggest a title?
Mister, I'm still thinking in a creative title. 1 minute.
Okay, okay. Who else can think of a good one now? You don't have to be super creative. Farida, can you?
About what?
Okay,
In
about
the
the plot I just told you about the
Yeah.
fairy that will try to explore a cave, and she was saved by the falling or the collapse of the cave. Do you have yours now, Omar?
Mister, in the cave.
In the cave. Oh, cool. So, all right, in the cave. That could work. Something basic like that could actually work. Okay, why not? In the cave. Remember to capitalize all of the words that you write in a title. Okay. Type in the cave. I like to start writing my fiction stories with the setting to try to put the reader in action, like in our situation or in the situation of the main character. So first mention where were they. So we said that this is a mermaid that lives underwater, so we can write under the ocean, right? We can write far under the ocean. Let's write this with me. Far under the ocean. Lived, and then we'll introduce her name. Okay, let's call her Sandy. Lived a mermaid. Yeah, she's not a fairy. She's a mermaid. Called Sandy. Okay, in the exposition or the introduction of the story, you have to mention 3 things. All right, guys? The first thing is the character, but this doesn't include only their name. You have to include their name and their character trait. What's a character trait? The character trait is what do they like to do? Okay, how are they like and what do they like to do in general? You can say that this mermaid likes to explore different places or is very playful, or just say what does she do in general. And secondly, you have to mention the setting, which is the time and place. You can mention one of them, like what we did here. We're not going to talk about the time, but we mentioned the place only. This is okay. You can mention both if you want to, but this is totally up to you. The third thing to do is to mention the atmosphere. Okay, guys, the atmosphere is basically how do the characters feel at the beginning of the story. So it's how characters feel right at the beginning of the story, okay? Are they excited because they're going to explore somewhere like the cave, this cave? Are they mad about something that recently happened? Are they sad about the death of one like character or relative to them? So yeah, that's the atmosphere. You have to put the reader into that situation. You have to mention how do the characters feel exactly. Type for us in here, I have mentioned the setting and the name. Now I have to mention the character trait, like uh, called Sandy, who like or who loves, who loved to explore different areas or different places of the ocean. Okay. So now this is her character trait, correct? In more details about the story, we have to actually mention more characters. So it's not going to be all about this one character. She has to have like friends, maybe a mother that will warn her of the danger, right? So let's introduce her mother now. We can say, or her friends probably first. Uh, Sarah, her good friend. Do you guys remember when we had to or when we learned about the two commas? Why do we use the two commas? To provide additional or extra information, right? So yeah, Sarah is her good friend. That's why I had to add two commas here. Sarah, her good friend, invited her to explore the a dangerous or a mysterious cave. But her mom got in the way. Her mother got in the way. Okay, cool. So, so far we have introduced three characters, right? And we have shown their character traits, like what are they like, what do they like to do. So her mom is more serious character, while Sarah is the fun friend that wants to explore places, right? Together with Sandy. You can try to finish this on your own, but try to add as much as you can of conversation. And whenever you do this, it will be on its own paragraph. Like for now, this is the end of the exposition, right? We have to move on to the rising action. Remember, step 2 of the story is the rising action. What's the rising action? It will be an action that will cause a problem later on. That will be the climax, right? So we're now going to write or try to write the rising action. In the rising action, you can begin it with a conversation of her mom warning, but this has to be on its own paragraph. Like this, just simple dialogue will be on its own paragraph, not together with the exposition or the rising action paragraph. Okay, so we can say, don't you dare to go there? Of course, her mom will say this, right? Or let's actually add an exclamation mark. Oh, yeah, this is kind of important, guys. So whenever we we do have a statement like this in a quotation, we have to take care of the end mark that is put here. I changed the comma into an exclamation mark because I will want to say or project it this way as if the mom is yelling, right? So if she yells, that means that she's showing strong feelings. And if somebody is showing strong feelings in his speech, then we must use the exclamation mark. But if it was just a normal order, like if she was saying, close the door, there's no need for exclamation mark, right? Okay, here, yelled. Oh, I think it froze. Yeah. Yelled her mom. And then you will continue writing your own paragraphs starting from here. So you will leave this line empty. Okay, and you left this line empty as an indication that you are beginning a new paragraph. Whenever you begin a new paragraph, you have to leave one line empty. Okay. As for the indentation, it's optional. Really not. You're not gonna lose marks about this in most genres of writing, except for some that I will let you know when this is the deal. So don't worry about the indent, which is the small space that you leave at the beginning of paragraphs. This is gonna be optional. If you don't leave indents in stories, in fiction writing, that's totally fine. It's accepted, no problem here. Okay. So do you have any questions about fantasy so far? Aziz, Frida, Omar, Yahya. What do you guys think?
No.
Easy so far?
No.
Type. What I'll ask you to do is
Easy.
to finish off this story on your own. Use your imagination. Just create like the middle and the end of this story on your own. Now let's move on to the other genre of writing. Okay, realistic fiction. This is quite the easiest one of them, I think. Don't you think too? So, what are the main features do you know about realistic fiction? Yeah, yeah.
Like non-fiction.
It's quite like nonfiction. Okay. So it's about realistic places. But the thing here that you have to take care of is you have to use specific names of places and people. That's for places and people, okay? Also, it should contain characters that have realistic problems, like real world problems. Real world problems. Cool. Okay. So it should be like about uh, danger that happens. A guy who was about to lose a game of football, maybe, but then he didn't give up and then he won. I don't know about maybe somebody who misses his best friend because they moved away. Like realistic stuff that could happen to us, to real characters, right? So now we'll write about the story of uh, two girls who were best friends, but one of them had to move away with her family, and now each of them is struggling. Both of them are struggling to make new friends at their um, like the girl that moved is struggling to make friends at her new neighborhood. Okay, let's see. In fiction in general, you'll try to use direct speech.
Mr. White's not non-fiction.
This is not Okay, so this is called realistic fiction. It's not nonfiction because it's a story. Nonfiction genres, all of them do not contain stories. So this is still a fiction because it's story. It comes in paper two, not paper one. Okay. Why is it fiction? It's because maybe you mean this. Like, why, if it's realistic, why do we call it fiction? Maybe that's your question, right? It's because it didn't really happen. We are inventing it. So those characters could be real, but they're not. They look like they're real, but they're not. You get it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Type. Let's try to write one about let's say Amy and I don't know, Amy and Farida. Okay, they were best friends, but now they're struggling to make friends. Yeah. Okay. Let's try to create a good title for this. Hmm. Can you suggest anything? Now trying to suggest a title for this. Yeah.
Would you make new friends?
How to make new friends, right? Or
Friends.
why?
Would friends?
Yeah, you said why, right?
Would.
Would. Okay. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but would you make new friends? But anything
Would.
about, yeah. Guys, why do you all mute yourselves? You shouldn't mute yourselves. We're all here together, so don't be shy. Just unmute yourself. Type. Would you make new friends? Okay, cool. To make a question as a title for the story, that's actually gonna be very cool. Would we make new friends? Oh yeah, gotcha now. Okay. Type. To begin with, we can introduce the characters at the beginning and their character traits, and then the setting for the realistic fiction, because we want to make it very relatable to the reader. Okay, so start with not the setting, not the place, but start actually with the characters first. So in fantasy fiction, we used to start with the setting, right? But in this one, the realistic, we already expect the setting to be normal, like a normal place. Exactly. So it's a realistic place, like a city. It will happen in a city, in normal city. So it's not very important to start with it. Just start with the characters. Let's say Farida and Amy, where we'll try to use as much as we can. Yani. We will try to use some strong vocab words. Okay. So let's say Farida and Amy were inseparable. That means they were always together, like they always followed each other. They were always spending time together. So they were inseparable at school, at the club, and um, at each other's houses. Okay. So now we introduced they were always together, spending time together. Let's now demonstrate what would they do, what do they like to do. Okay, we can say that they okay, because they're both like girls, so probably they're making fun of their classmates. Maybe, yeah. They were always always making fun of their classmates. Um, what else would they make? Can you suggest anything? Two girls spending time together. Hmm. Something evil. What do you guys suggest? Yalla, I'm not gonna write for you. I'm not just gonna write for you. I want you to share in your thoughts to write this together. Okay? Yalla, go ahead.
ما عنديش thoughts والله.
Yeah, I'm waiting for suggestions. You guys should go ahead now and try to suggest anything else now. Hmm.
They're very
Doing very well.
rude.
Rude. Okay, we already showed that they made fun of their classmates, right? So we can demonstrate this by they're not gonna bully people, but maybe let's say and shared uh, shared secrets that best friends had that only best friends had. So this is the beginning of the story. We can later on say that Farida's family, like on one day, Farida's family invites Amy's family onto dinner to tell them the good news about their new job. So they have and then on dinner they will tell about the job transfer and they have to move on to live in California, okay, for example, and then the other girl, Amy, we'll try to use the idea of show, not tell. We have to show that she will become sad. We can say that Amy knew that everything will change, would change, and we'll try to add some of her actions to show this that she's actually angry about what's happening. So we can say we can also say that Amy felt her stomach sinking, or we can say her face turned pale yellow, or she stopped talking altogether. Anything that shows that she's mad about what's happening, okay? So you'll try to always show by their actions, by their thoughts, by sharing their what they say, right? But you do what you do, but don't actually tell that she was sad or he was happy or he was excited. Don't tell this, but actually try to show it. The more you do this, the more marks you'll get in writing. Okay. Type. You'll have to finish this story on your own as well. And now we're going to move on to another type of fiction writing, which is horror. Okay, my favorite. I think most of you have written horror stories before, but maybe while writing, you're struggling to make it scary enough. You think, okay, whatever I write, it will not be scary, right? But there are some certain elements, if you use them, it will turn this upside down. It will make it very scary, okay? Or at least, yeah, for a piece of story. So yeah, you can't really scare people that much with a story that you write in 30 minutes. But yeah, okay, we'll try. Type. The main features of horror writing is that, of course, we know that the characters should be scary, definitely, right? So characters are vampires, right? Werewolves, zombies. Okay, what else? They could be ghosts, etc., etc. The setting. If the story is set in a normal place, like in your grandma's house, it's not gonna be scary, right? If it's set in your front or backyard, it's not gonna be scary. If it happens in a park, in a beautiful park in the morning, it's never going to be scary. The setting has to be scary. It has to be like an old house, an abandoned house, maybe a park, but not in the morning, maybe at night, right? At midnight. You found yourself in a park and you're trying to get out, but nobody was there to help you. There was no light, no signal. You couldn't reach out to even jump through the wall or the fence. So yeah, you'll have to make the setting or the place scary. Okay, so dark or like eerie setting. The word eerie means if something is like sketchy or like weird. Okay, eerie setting means something that is scary, a place that is scary, and of course the time should be at night. It shouldn't be in the morning, right? Type. Now we have finished like the most basic ones, but we have two more that will like really help you into making it more scary. The first one will begin with here is the cliffhanger. Okay, what's a cliffhanger? Let's imagine that Yahya and I are in that park, and maybe you got lost or something, or we slept, we had a nap, but then when we woke up, we found it was midnight and nobody was around. We didn't have phones, and it looked scary. It was scary. Nobody was there. No lights. There were strange noises and sounds, and nobody was around. So, okay, out of nowhere, something white started moving towards us. uh, Yahya and I started running, but then Yahya tripped and fell. Okay. I had to continue to run to save my life. I couldn't look back. Uh, so by doing this, you're creating a cliffhanger, which means you are not revealing what happened to Yahya. So now the main character escaped, but what about this other character? Okay, this helping character. We actually don't know what happened to him. Maybe you say, and a few hours later, I tried to search for him at the same spot, but I couldn't find the trace, or I only found his jacket or shoe, whatever. So this is a cliffhanger that means the reader will probably have to read more to know more information about what happened to this other guy. Okay, this is one way of doing cliffhangers. So let's write here cliffhangers. Okay. So remember again, to do a cliffhanger, it means you're not going to reveal what happened. The reader has to read more to know what happened. Type. The last one that we will discuss here is the main character has to be trapped into the setting. Like maybe Omar got into an old house. It was windy that day. But once he got in, the wind closed the door shut, and when he tried to open it, with the door handle, the handle came in his hand, like it broke into his hand. So there is no way of going out. So you'll have to make him trapped inside this location, inside the setting. So trap the main character. Is trapped. By the way, um, this meeting will end now because Zoom has a limitation of time. We will join again through the same link, okay? So Mr. Hen, I think she will send you the same link again. It's gonna be the same link. We just have to quit and join again. So let's do that now and continue, okay? All right. Yeah, you guys should leave now.
Okay.
That's this. You have to leave and join again, okay? Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Okay. Okay. Okay.